Guys, it's William Brewster here. I just want you to subscribe to When Saturdays Come. Big Blaze, up the Blades, let's go.
Hello everyone, welcome back to When Saturdays Comes with me, Dry Bright. Well, this morning Chris Wilder threw us all out of sync and decided he's going to put his presser on today instead of tomorrow, which he does normally before a game if it's Friday, it's Saturday, but he chose to do it today, and it is what it is. So I've been watching it. It's took quite a while to go through. Forgive me, I've had to take a lot of notes, and what I've done, I've just put a few bullet points down to try and explain what he talked about. Then I'll put Chris's presser down in full after the video, so you can watch it at your leisure and see what you'll think. He talked about lots of things. Chris Wilder, you know what he's like. He says it as it is. In general, I didn't agree with everything that he says, but what I'll do, I'll go through the basic bullet points, what I've put down. Then I've not put everything in it. The rest of it, you can look at it at your leisure and make your own mind up and put them in the comments below after you've listened to it, and tell me what you'll think. But he said that they're going to go back to basics and try and get the result on Friday. Referred to what happened on Saturday at Plymouth, and the FA have been in touch and asked for their observations. He did speak to the opposition manager, the referee and the assessor. And he basically said the emotions are running high, and the words were said, and there were a lot of argy-bargy in the tunnel. There were about 70 odd people in an enclosed space. But at the end of the day, he doesn't think anything will come of it. Whatever with FA, I think the matter is sort of closed. But we'll see what if or when the FA have to say anything. But I don't at this point anything will come out of it. He talked about the team taking responsibility for recent form and owning it, which he said that before. They underperformed for the last three games. Well, that's an understatement to say the least, isn't it? They have underperformed. Been very poor defensively, which don't we know it, and you can draw your own conclusions to that, and you know what I think about that. They just need, they've had a big week, they need a big week, and they are doing that. Forgive me when I'm looking at the notes as well. I'm going to have to go through them because, he had quite a bit to say. Mathematically, it's not done and dusted yet, and they've got to win all the last four. He addressed the criticism and the negativity and on the complacency, which Andy Giddings were talking about to him before in his presser, and they asked the question, and he just said they've just not been good enough. Defensively, very poor, which we all know about, don't we? They're all hurting. And they've got to change it very quickly, which, again, don't we know it? Understand? And it's got to start on Friday. He doesn't know what the atmosphere is going to be like on Friday. They're going to have to wait and see. In my opinion on that, it's going to be down to them players on the pitch. They've got to create an atmosphere. It's not just down to us. They've got to perform. He touched on Burnley and Leeds. He said a few weeks ago, Leeds were having this same conversation that we're having. They were going through the mill, and they were having a bad time, and how quickly it can change. So they'll have been having that conversation, the same as we're having one now. They've got to get back to winning ways, which is obvious. They've done the plan and work on Cardiff City, and they will. And he feels that they will win if they play to the best of their ability. He says confidence is massive, and pressure is a privilege to be playing in these games. He sort of alluded to like beginning of season, and the expectations high. Fans have different expectations. When we started, I didn't think we'd be in top 3, but I would have took it at the beginning of the season from where we were then and where we are now. But this is where we are. This is what we want the team to be in, you know, pushing for promotion. It's a good opportunity to get promotion. It says the general shape of the team won't change, but tactically it will. Personnel might change. And the elephant in the room, Robbo, he's had words with Robbo. He had a conversation with him and he's talked about his form and he understands that he needs to do better, which is an understatement at the minute. He was a bit contradictory. He tried to support Robbo in one way, so he's done great all season, and then he didn't say. I think you were trying to give Robbo a bit of confidence and saying to him that, you know, you've done great all. Whether that means he's going to drop him, I don't know. He talked about Rob Holding as well. And Rob Holding's been knocking on the door. When Rob came in, the team were winning and he couldn't really change the team. I can understand that. That's a fair comment to make. But we're not playing well and we're not winning games. So to me, reading in between lines, Holding could play. But then again, he backed Robbo a little bit by saying he's had a chat to him and he knows he's got to do better and he's done well all season. I can disagree with that. I don't think he's been great all season, to be honest with you. But it says Rob Holding's knocking on the door now. He touched on Kiefer Moore. He's doing the same. He's ready to play. And also he touched on Vinny. And he can manage 70 minutes now. He's not match fit. He's not being match fit. And he's finding his way back in. And he can definitely do it. That 70 minutes at Plymouth will have done him a world of good. It still remains to be seen whether they can win next 4 games. That's the plan. I mean, obviously, if it goes pear shaped and it doesn't, we'll go forward into playoffs. One question he was asked as how is he coping himself? You know, after what's been happening, and he said he's okay. He said he's got a good team around him, Jamie Hoyland and the staff, and he's coping well. He's okay. I think Jamie Hoyland made a comment about Don Givens. If those of you who don't know who Don Givens is, I certainly do, because I was there when he had to take a penalty against Walsall back in the day, 81, whatever, something like that, when we had to beat Walsall or draw against Walsall, and he missed a last minute penalty and we got relegated. I can tell you that was a day and a half as well. If you think this is bad now, losing 3 games, think back to when, if you're old enough like me, an old dude like me, when you stood up cop and watched a penalty missing last minute, and then we get relegated, and it's just like, I don't want to go there. I just don't want to go there. But that's how it is. Look, I want them to win on Friday. I want them to put in a good performance. I want them to create a good atmosphere. I'm still not going to change my opinion. I don't think Leeds or Burnley will fall apart. I just can't see it. I mean, you know, sport is sport. Anything can happen. It does happen. You know, we're picking at straws, in my opinion. I think the first thing we've got to do is get some confidence back. And they've got to do that starting on Friday by putting in a good shift, a good performance, and getting a bit of belief back, a bit of character back, a bit of determination and confidence. And hopefully we can move on to, if we get the result and Burnley slip up, it changed the dynamics on Monday totally. And hopefully we can, one game at a time, innit? It's just one game at a time. I don't know. I don't know what team's going to turn up on Friday. We don't know what, none of us do after what's happening last. Nobody expected us to lose 3 games on bounce. You know, nobody. You know, we should have been beating teams. Certainly 2 out of the 3 of the games we should have won. But let's not get too downhearted. Let's stay positive. I want to believe we can get a result on Friday, one step at a time. I'll put Chris's presser on straight after this. Love to hear your opinions as always. Please like and subscribe as you have done. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate your comments. I do read every single one, by the way, good or bad or indifferent, and I do reply to 99.9% of them anyway. Not everyone I can reply to, but I will if I can. But thanks for your support, and I'll chat to you again on Friday night. Hopefully after the game we'll do a match reaction, and let's hope it's a positive one for all us Blades fans out there. So all the best, enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll speak to you soon. Up the Blades.
Okay, look, Chris, at the end of the match down at Plymouth there was a something that ended up in the tunnel. Has there been a fallout or a comeback from that?
I've got the FA have asked us for our observations. As you will obviously have with experience from myself, tell you exactly sort of where it was at. Went onto the pitch at the end of the game, gathered the players, thought it was important. It wasn't, I think Sky put it on as a Phil Brown moment, or as people like to do, sensationalise everything. It was a calm chat with the players to talk about we have to take responsibility for this last performance and 3 games where we've turned a really good position into obviously a not so good position, and we have to own it and accept it. A lot of good things have been said about us this season, but over this 3-game period we haven't been good enough. Time not to split and go our own ways and start using excuses and blame culture and this, that and the other. This club has not been built on blaming, and it's not been built on excuses. It's been built on honesty in opinion and actions. Not to go our different ways, accept the criticism that most probably will be coming our way. We have to deal with it, and most importantly, got to acknowledge 2,500-3,000 of our supporters who've made 2 long-distance journeys now from Oxford to Plymouth, and we've underachieved. So we have to accept that. No reactions. Let's go over to acknowledge their support. Let's get ourselves in, and we need a big week. We need to clear our heads over the weekend, and we need to have a good week starting on Monday, going into Friday, and then let's see where we can take it. As I said, there'll be a lot of people that talk about our season being done and dusted. It isn't. Mathematically, it isn't. We've put ourselves in not a great position, and we've given up an advantage. That's all we've done. And we need to be positive in our approach during the week, and that was it. And as we walked off, there's some verbals with a couple of the players, and then you look at it and you go, there's verbal sort of talk between players and whatever, and there's about 70 people going into a really short tunnel, short area, and a tight tunnel area. If you look at it, you go, there's 20 odd players from each side, 40. 10 members of staff, 50, 60, and about 10 stewards. So, listen, it was verbals and stuff like that, but that's we've responded to the FA in terms of observations. No issues with Plymouth Argyle. It's a fabulous result for them, and a poor one for us. 2 teams fighting different battles, an emotional game, and. Went to speak to their manager afterwards. Absolutely no issue between 2 sets of players, 2 sets of staff, manager to manager. I went to see the referee afterwards, and he said he'd possibly have to stick it in his report, but as far as he was concerned, there was nothing, and same from the assessor. So offensively, we've conceded some really poor goals. The bit in between, from box to box, we've had control of the game, 70% possession. In terms of the opportunities and where we want to get the ball, we've got the ball in terms of where we wanted to get to it. We've not been good enough at the top of the pitch. The forward players, we've not created enough, and we've not been clinical enough in our finishing. And the stats back all that up. So subjective and objective. So defensively, we've conceded 2 goals from set plays, which we've been really good with, and we've conceded a goal from a long throw, which we didn't deal with. And we conceded a goal from a counter-attack where we're in control and in possession, and they've countered on us and found a good finish, Coburn. The stats all back that up. We've not done enough on both ends of the pitch, and when people talk about the game and talk about transition and all the other stuff, all the modern stuff, The game boils down to what happens in both boxes. And in both boxes, in terms of our stats, in terms of the opportunities that teams have had on us, and their conversion rate has gone up because of our inability to defend properly at crucial times and not have that focus and concentration. And at the top of the pitch, when we found big moments right the way through the seasons and found the finishes and found the right combinations, we've not done that. I'm not stood in front of the players on Saturday afternoon saying let's sit back for a 1-0 win. I've never said that. I can't ever say that really at any time in my period here. We knew we had to go and get the second goal. We wanted to dominate possession. We wanted to be clinical in our approach. But we haven't been good enough at the top of the pitch. The players that we've got should be creating more, and we should be finishing off chances. We had chances at Oxford, we had chances at against Millwall in the home game, and we had chances on Saturday. And we should be creating more chances. So the quality and the talent that we've got in the group, whether it's out of possession or in possession, we haven't been good enough, and we have to all accept that criticism. That goes with losing 3 games that we should have definitely won 2 out of the 3. Can't lose against a team that was bottom on current form away from home. Can't lose a team that was bottom of the league. So we have to accept everything that goes, and I'm absolutely happy to do that and understand the narrative at the moment will be that that's it. That's our season done and dusted. I always think on stuff like this, Andy, the only real reflection you can make is at the end of the season on how the season's been. And we've still got 4 games to go. We need to adjust it pretty quickly. We totally understand that, and we need to adjust it on Friday. And there'll be, section of our supporters that will be ultra critical. We have a right to be. There'll be sections of our supporters that'll be in the middle, and there'll be some of our supporters that'll be really positive. I can't do anything about that. What I can try and do is affect the group to be better by working hard this week, which they have done, and by putting a better performance in at both ends of the pitch that ultimately gives us an opportunity to win a game of championship football. 2
of the sort of sub-themes beneath the general performances have been, Jack Robinson's general performances. So question 1, is it maybe time to bring him out of the firing line? And is Vinny Souza match sharp?
Well, how do we get him up to match fitness, match sharpness? He should be able to do 70 minutes, even though he's been out. He's a massive player for us. We have to get him up to speed somehow as well. The performances, like I said, have warranted me putting Vinny back in because he's such a big player for us. He's an outstanding player. So the 70 odd minutes that he got at Plymouth will do the world of good. Going into the next games, he's a huge player for us. He's one of our best players. So we need to get the best out of him. We need to get some minutes under his belt, which he has done. And the challenge on Saturday, him coming back in, should have been enough for him. Was he at his best? No. Were we at our best? No, which I've just talked about. But us at our best and Vinny at our best makes us a better team, without a shadow of a doubt. Jack's performances, I spoke to Jack. He's obviously disappointed with his performances, as we are as a team and collectively. So he understands that he's a leader. He needs to do better, just as much as everybody else in that group, and me and the coaching staff need to be better at our jobs. So he understands that. We all understand that, and he has to lead from the front. He's been outstanding for us so far this season. Does 1 or 2 games warrant him coming out the side? There's always that question that we need to pick the right side, and that's up to me, and that's something always that I need to try and get right. So decisions to be made going into Friday, but when these big games come up and when the pressure games come up, you want your leaders, you want your experienced players out there that have been through the process, been down the stretch like Robbo has, in past times and achieved success. So he's part of our group, and he will he'll hopefully lead us in the way that he has done all season.
Because I would imagine it's quite the dilemma for any manager at the sharp end of things, if you have a week like you do, to change everything, or indeed just stick to the types of things that have got you to 80 plus points right now. And quite the head scratcher, I suppose, because you've alluded to all the theories. You don't need me to tell you what they are about changing this.
Yeah, Andy, the process of the team, that the way they've played, confidence is a massive thing. We're not, pressure is a privilege. That's an excuse. Pressure, it's nonsense. We should be embracing that. We've not just done the basics right, and like I said, we've not in both boxes. We've not defended well enough on some set pieces and actions. And any team can score a goal on any action. I remember us going to Liverpool last year. Undercooked at the start of the season, real difficult season for us. We concede a really poor goal, and we score in the 75th minute on one action. So anything can happen from one action. If somebody switches off, anything can happen. But the general, shape of the team, I'm not going to take a wrecking ball to it, because it's got us to over 80 points. It's got us to over 2 points per game. So that'll be quite difficult now for us to completely change our philosophy, all the work that we've put in pre-season, right the way through the season, just to go into one game. Tactically, there might be a few tweaks. Selection is obviously key. But I'm not going to take a wrecking ball to it. I still believe massively in this group of players that have got us over 2 points per game. Expectation level has gone up through the season. I get that expectation level. I think that I was reading an article yesterday. I think that expectation level across the board in any sport and in anything you do professionally has gone through the roof. It's at a completely different level, whether it's just social media or whatever. It has gone through the roof. So you've got to handle that. There'll be a lot of people talking about our season at the start as a season of transition, really, and there'll be a percentage and a single figure percentage that would expect us to be in this position as we are now with the points that we've got. I'm not trying to deflate. We've had a really bad week of performances and a bad week of results. But like I said, people will be talking about transition. They'll be talking about, as I've just said, about small percentage of us being in this position now. There'll be a decent percent that will be going in and around the playoffs, fighting for playoffs. There'll be another group that will think below midway, and there'll be another group that think that we're going through the trap door, like another one of the relegated clubs could possibly happen to. So these are sort of the opinions set on us. Big thing for me now. Energy, belief in what we have done for the majority of the season, resilience in terms of reaction and personality in performance. I don't know what the atmosphere is going to be like on Friday. We have to get on with it, accept the situation that we're in, accept the negativity around the place, and do something about it with a front foot proper winning performance that we need to produce on Friday night.
With regard to team news issues then, and in terms of ready and availability, Kiefer Moore in terms of starting and playing some kind of regular football, and I suppose Rob Holding within that picture. Where are they? Yeah,
difficult one for Rob, because he's come and we've won games of football, so he's not had a lot of football. He had one start against Bristol City. So that's been difficult for him to get up to speed. If he'd have gone straight in, and then obviously he would be up to speed, but the team was doing well up until the Oxford game, so I think it'd be quite difficult to start, and possibly if I'd have just chucked Rob in as well, there'd have been, if we'd not got that result, there'd have been, why are you changing it, what are you doing that for? So that's part and parcel of the trials and tribulations of being a manager, but Rob's knocking on the door. The other one, Kiefer's come back from a hernia injury. He's knocking on the door. What I will say is, though, is the contributions of the subs as well has not been up to where it should be as well. So everybody's involved in this, but everybody's involved in the selection process. So, but then Should we leave Tyrese out, who's been our top scorer, who's done ever so well? Only a week ago we were talking about him and Ryan being really good, and other players at the top of the pitch. So there's loads of decisions to make, and everybody has to be ready to play a part.
And well, Cardiff then provide the next challenge. What's your assessment of them?
Without being disrespectful, and we have a game plan on Cardiff and their strengths and weaknesses, but as you can imagine, 70 or 80%, even more, has been going into the players. The messages that we've put into them, the work that we've done on the training ground to get ourselves right. I believe at our best, then we win the game. Then we need to be at our best, and we need to be us. We need to represent the best of us. We've got the tools to do the job. We understand that. We've done that all season, and we need to do it again on Friday night. They'll come with a game plan. They'll come with a fight, because their fights want to stay in the division, but we have to overcome that, and our fight needs to be bigger than theirs. Cheers.
Thank you.
Morning, Chris.
Hey, Dan.
We know you love your golf.
Yeah.
The events at Augusta this week, does that perhaps show that nothing is impossible, and when you are written off, sometimes you can come back and perform?
Sport. It was won and it was lost, and it was won and it was lost. Then it was won again. Then it was lost again. Then it was won. Yeah. So this is how it is. And the world's best player, yeah, 100%. And nobody would have thought, going down the 18th in regular time, that he puts it in the bunker, and there's 1,000 shots that he would have, and 1,000 times he'd put it in the middle of the green. That's just how it is. Yeah. So these things happen, but there's no excuse. That's no excuse, and possibly he'll be saying the same. If he'd have lost it, he'd have said, "Well, that was it. We had, it's up to us to deal with situations, up to us to deal with different parts of the season, different challenges." And in the past week, we haven't been good enough to deal with the challenges. And in the next weeks, we have to be good enough to deal with the challenges. And when the regular season finishes, we will reflect and we'll look back. And if this is a week that's hurt us, it's hurt us, and we've got to own that. And then we reset and go again, because there's still games after that. But that isn't the focus. We still believe we can win 4 games of football. The biggest one is now we need to win 1, because losing 3 games on the spin in the Championship at the top end is not good enough for me, and it's not good enough for the football club, and we accept that and own that.
It's interesting you mentioned there about the article about the expectation levels rising with social media and that sort of stuff. I think we've all seen that, haven't we? How do you sort of cope with that? Because I imagine it's completely different to how when you started your managerial career, and some of these players might have seen that change as well. How do you sort of deal with that as a group? That's
just the way it is, and players have got to deal with it. If they want to be top players, we want to play in that big league, you have to deal with certain situations. You have to deal with negativity, you have to deal with going through, personally, poor performances, and how you get that back on track. There's all different ways, to get around that, but for me, it's always a work ethic. We have to work harder. We have to focus more. We have to be better at our skills. And those moments come around. We have to be better in general in everything that we do. The boys have got the talent to do it. I've been down the stretch plenty enough times and come out the other end. So I'll lean on that. The players should lean on their ability. We've got some big players there that have played in big games and at big moments of season, so they need to lean on maybe their past experiences. Might be different for the young lads, and some of these lads might not come through this period. It's top-end Championship football. There's some young boys in there: City Peck, Femi, Harrison Burrows, Cooper, Jezrak Saki. This is the first time that they've experienced it. It's a pretty young side, as we know. So they need to come through that. And the young boy and the older boys need to lean on their experiences, because they've all played in big games. Robbo's played in big games, Anel's played in big games, Vinny has played in big games, so has Gus, so has Callum Aware, so has Tyrese, so has Ryan, so has Ben Berra and Diaz, but they need to be all better. And if anybody I've not named, we all need to be better in doing our jobs right. It's not an attitude problem. It's not a commitment problem. And I would tell you that 100%, because they wouldn't even be playing.
Yeah.
If I felt that they didn't feel it and emotionally they weren't up for it, and they didn't want to be here, first of all they wouldn't be here, and second they wouldn't be playing in these types of games. They wouldn't be playing. They wouldn't be putting a red and white shirt on. And maybe the frustration is, like I said, is sort of boiling over emotionally a little bit. But we're not robots. We're all not robots. I'm not a robot. I've got flaws. I'm a football manager. You know, I'm not. You know, my job is to try and win games of football through my career, and I've tried to do that. And majority of times we've been okay with that and pretty successful. So we need to be good at our jobs. But like I said, you know, I'm not a robot. I don't just want to come out and be here and just give you the plain one-liner. And you know, quite interesting because one of my pals said to me, I got loads of messages of support. You know, come through it and crack on. You know, bang on, which is brilliant. I'm surrounded at this football club with some real positivity and loyalty. I'm surrounded at home with friends and family from a real positive point of view and a loyalty point of view. Not just turning it in on me just because we've had a bad week. I'm not turning it on the players just because they've had a bad week. Yeah. They've got my trust. They've got my belief. I think there was a quote from a manager about a local derby made the best team win. You know, I'm not that type of manager. I'm an emotional manager, and I want my players to be emotional players. You know, we've got to find the calmness and we've got to find the control and the balance. I understand that. But this is the way we are, and these are the way that sometimes you go through periods of your season, and we need to arrest it and get back to what we do best, which is wanting to win, and emotionally being at our best.
Does that, you touched on that emotional experience there, or inexperience as it might be with the young lads, does that factor more into your team selection now? Because I imagine there's a million factors that go into picking your team, but at this stage of the season, are you looking at, you know, who's been down the stretch? Does that sort of come into it?
Yeah, but we're trying to develop players as well, Dan. Yeah. So they have to go through the process if they want to be at the top. We want to go into the Premier League. You know, these boys that are brought here, you know, want to achieve success, want to be at the top of the Championship. No guarantees. When I signed Harrison, when I signed Cooper, Raksake, when Femi's come through, when Siddy's come through, when Callum Aware's come through, there wasn't a guarantee of Premier League football. 100%. Did we want to be pushed towards the top of the division? Yeah. Was it a little bit of a transition all season? Yeah, in some ways, because of the amount of players that we let go at the end of the season, the amount of players that we brought in. But it's still wanting to be a winning season, and for the majority of times, it's a winning season, over 2 points per game. So they've got to come through this process. The team as a group has got to come through this process. So yeah, they could be in my thoughts. You know, do I leave them out? But how do these young boys progress? And they have to feel it, they have to live it, and they have to survive it and come through it. And my belief is that they all will. And if they don't, then they have to learn from that experience.
I imagine a lot of this week has been sort of focused on picking the players up again. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but who sort of picks you up?
I'm all right. I've got really good people around me, fabulous people around me. Jamie Oyland, whose history is steeped in Sheffield United, and his old man played here, and he played here, and he's a big pal of mine, and he's good at his job, and said, listen, it could be worse, you could be Don Givens. So I went, yeah, good point. I said, but we're still losing games and I don't like it and I've not enjoyed it. And he went, yeah, I know, and you feel it, and we all feel it. But, you know, words of support from the likes of him are priceless, and other people are around me. People are, you know, externally in the game and internally at this football club. So we all back each other. So I'm okay. I've been through the stretch before, like I said, and lost games before. So I'm okay. Come fighting back, glutton for punishment and all that stuff. But the highs at this football club massively outweigh the lows, and we've had a small period of lows over this season, and there's been some incredible highs. A Sheffield double, winning games of football this season, over 2 points per game this season, and the position that we're in. So the balance of it, of incredibly disappointed that we've had a poor week, but come on, let's get ourselves going, show the resilience that we need to show. The players have been picked up, you know, I'm not smashing them about all over the place, but they have to realise the truth. And this week hasn't been good enough. It's no good me going and saying, let's go for a beer and let's go and have a Chinese and let's take the pressure off you and do this, that and the other. The harsh reality is that, you know, we've given up a really positive position and handed the initiative to other teams when we had the initiative, and that hurts. That really does hurt. But we'll keep swinging and we'll keep fighting, and hopefully we can come out fighting and swinging on Friday night.
Cheers, mate. Good luck.
Cheers. Thanks, Dan.
Cheers. I mean, I know you're not going to be enjoying, or you won't have enjoyed the last 3 games, and there is always this sort of huge reaction, especially in this sort of multimedia day and age. But ultimately, without making light of anything, this is sport.
Yeah, you know, if it was that easy, I think we've talked about it loads of times, Shieldsy. If that easy, everybody would do it, and everybody would be a success, and it challenges everybody. It challenges players, it challenges staff, it challenges owners, and it challenges supporters. You know, our supporters will be giving stick locally, so that would have hurt. From an area point of view, that would have hurt as well. From a national point of view, because of the massive, incredible coverage that it all gets. So we're all under the firing line, and then obviously then it'll get turned against us, manager and skipper and players. So you have to accept that. So I'm okay. I've been always consistent about we're always. After the Coventry game, when we walked out the building, and the weekend that we had, it was, you know, walking around Sheffield, and that was brilliant. It was amazing. It was a great performance. Put yourselves in a great position. So when I'm walking around Sheffield now, and people are looking at you differently, you just have to accept it as part and parcel. You have to accept it when the sun shines, and when it doesn't, you have to deal with it. But it does stir you a little bit. I think, you know, for me, more focused than I've ever been, more determined than I've ever been in my career to chase that winning feeling. Chased it for a number of years now, and I'm still chasing it, and I want the club to chase it, and not be happy with second best, and not be happy with unlucky or excuses, and not be happy with losing 3 really big games. We're not unhappy. It's an unhappy football club at the moment, and rightly so. And I don't want players to be jumping through hoops. I don't want players to be coming back on the coach and laughing and singing. I want them to hurt and to feel it. But it can't last forever, because that will affect the medium and long term. We have to quickly get over it, and that next opportunity, which we have got on Friday, to go and get that winning feeling back, and put 3 points on the board. But this is sport. There's a winner and there's a loser. And at the moment, we're a losing football team, and we have to quickly change that around.
I'm guessing as well. I mean, it's really important to do that, because I know everything at this stage of the season gets magnified even more than usual.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the final positions will be decided over the course of a season. So the one thing that nobody here wants to do, because you do hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, prepare for this. Just relax on that." It would be horrible. Who's to say Burnley, who's to say Leeds aren't suddenly going to have a little wobble, have a stumble? The one thing you wouldn't want to do, isn't it, is be in a position where you're looking at the end of the season thinking, if we'd have only done this in those last 4 games, forget the last 3, look at what would have happened.
No, listen, that conversation would have been going round at Leeds 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It might be going round in Burnley in a week or 2 time, and it's gone round us. Nobody would have expected off the back of the Coventry performance. We've not underprepared. We're not complacent. I'm not complacent manager, Shields. You know that. I'm possibly more on it when challenges that you need. We've just not been good enough. And who would have thought that we would lose 3 games on the bounce? To the teams that we've lost against, a very, very small percentage of people in the football world, but we have done. So That's how it is, and you're quite right. And even if, and I've always said this, even if we we don't get to where we want to be, we've got an obligation and a challenge and a duty to go and win games of football, regardless of the position that we're in or whatever. The reflection of the season will always be at the end of the season, and our season might end before that, but it'll go right to the end. Our season might end on the last day of the season, and it might have to go again, and it might have to go again. So, you know, we recognise that. The big challenge for me now is, off the back of losing 3 games of football, is to go and win 1 game of football on Friday and see where that takes us, and the focus on that. But quite rightly, there's everything to play for, and we have to make sure that we get absolute maximum out of these next 4 games starting on Friday.
And they're capable of doing it, because up until the last 3, and you know, unfortunately, even the best teams will always win. Well, so will always lose games of football. I think anybody in professional sport, that's part of having to hate that, but almost accept that, isn't it, and deal with it. There's not been a team in the world I can think of that's never lost a game. But it's just about that. Yeah, that sort of focus, that deal with it, be calm. Yeah. Yeah,
you have to play with personality. You have to play with emotion. You know, you have to fight. You know, you can't have one without the other. You can't have, you know, players who are emotional, then all of a sudden, you know, are cold as ice. So there's a little bit in between that you need to get that. You need to get that right. They need to show that they care, which we do, but they need to show the calmness as well, and the control to play our best football, because that's part of the game. But we have to, you know, we have to be better than what we have been. And everybody looks for different excuses and dramatises it and sensationalises it, and, you know, this has happened, that's happened, and all sorts of theories and whatever. And which I've said before, really, it is a simplistic point of view. Defensively, we've not dealt with certain situations well enough. The attitude is always go and win the game. Always go and win the game comfortably. Can you take the game away from teams at half time? We talked about the threat of a set play, but we needed to go and get that second and third goal that absolutely deflates them and gets us a big 3 points. We tried to do that on Tuesday night against Millwall. We went to the end against Oxford, but we just weren't good enough. And sometimes it is as simple as that. We haven't been good enough in our box, and their box we've not been clinical enough as well. So get those 2 parts of the pitch right, and get back to winning ways. And of quickly, we've got history over this weekend, positive history over this weekend that can happen. But as you said previously, the first thing that has to happen is to our part of the bargain we need to get right. And whatever part of the season it is, if you know, you can lose 1 game, it really hurts. If you lose 2, 3, you know, it's bordering on, come on now, this is you know, we need to go and get a good performance in and a big result on Friday.
I think the good thing is, though, I know in the past, when you just mentioned there about let's go out for a beer, let's go out for a Chinese, I know there's been situations in the past, even when sort of you and I have maybe been talking about other teams, where you've said that'd be actually probably not a bad idea. Yeah. But the good thing is, in this situation, it's something that you can actually probably rectify out there, isn't it? You're not looking at your head trying to solve a problem thinking, I haven't actually got the tools at my disposal, not yours personally, but to solve that. You know the solutions
absolutely.
there.
Yeah. The detail in all the goals. The detail in all the goals is key. We have to get the detail right. We've not got the detail right in terms of from a defensive outlook because we've not been under the cosh. Coops has not had to make save after save after save. He's made 1 big save on the counter-attack against Millwall when we were chasing a game. We've had 70 plus percent possession. So that means we've dominated and controlled games, because if it wasn't, it'd be 35 and we'd be on the back foot, and the stats would say that, and we're not. We've had the ball, and we've not, and you look at it, we've just made some really poor decisions, and we've not been good enough at the top of the pitch. We've not been good enough on set plays delivery. The impact of the subs has not been enough where it should be, with the quality that we've got and the talent at the top of the pitch. We should be doing a lot better. But I'm not saying when Gus Aymer picks the ball up and he's travelling and he's going and trying to hurt somebody, well, check back Gus and go back to the goalkeeper. That's a negative approach. A negative approach is having 35% possession and sat on the edge of the box and play counter-attack football. We've not sat back once. We've not sat back against Oxford. We didn't sit back against Millwall, and we didn't sit back against Plymouth. But the final bit in that final actions and big moments, we need to be better with. We need to be better with more combinations. We need better in terms of our ability to play that final pass, the final pass, run, cross, and finish. We need to be, better in terms of the quality that we've shown, that puts teams to bed, that goes from 2 and then they have to come out and then it goes to 3 and it completely deflates it. The approach at Coventry was not a negative approach. There's a period there when we got the third where we were absolute rampant. I didn't say go and sit on the edge of our box there for half an hour AKA Chelsea in the day, as you know. Yeah. Well, 1-0 was enough, and that one of the most brilliant managers of all time enjoyed that. I don't enjoy that. I want us to go the other way. Sometimes you get pushed back that way. But we weren't pushed back in any of the 3 games. It's us, me looking either to my left or to my right, and us in the ascendancy. But we've not found those moments for the talent that we've got in our group. The good thing about it, like you said, you can pinpoint it, and we've done unit meetings, and that should happen, and this should happen, and we should be more. That situation should be a little bit clearer, and that touch needs to be better, and that final bit needs to be better. So they understand it, and I should imagine the most important people are, without going them or us, is going speaking to the players and saying, well, what's the messages and what you've been talking about over the past sort of week or 10 days have been those bits and pieces that are relevant to the game and relevant to winning a game of football. Bit in the middle has been okay. Goalkeeper's not had a save to make, conceded 4 poor goals, top of the pitch, the amount of opportunities, where we got the ball, the opportunities that we've got with the talent in the group, we have to be scoring. We have to be scoring against Oxford, we have to be scoring against Millwall, and we have to be scoring against Plymouth. But we haven't, and we have to put all those things right on Friday.
And just one last thing from me. I mean, there's a lovely example coming up this weekend on Sunday of a Sheffield United fan, actually, Liam Cameron, I'm thinking, albeit in a different sport, but who, I'm sure Liam won't mind me saying this, looked all washed up at one stage, had a great deal of promise at the start of his career, had had that, you could almost sort of condense his career into a football season, the highs and lows, but kept persevering, came back from adversity, stared it down, showed sort of the courage to do that, but also the focus, as you've said, and has reignited his career.
Yeah, brilliant. Wish him all the best. We all believe he got robbed in the first fight anyway, didn't he? So wish him all the best. I know he's a big blade, isn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe that epitomises where we're at the moment. The narrative is that we've blown it, and that's the season done and dusted, and what we're bothering about, and let's not turn up if it goes to and you can hear it now, can't you? Yeah. The season's done. We've chucked it away. It's been a rubbish season. That's rubbish. The balls are too heavy. The food in the canteen's rubbish. Everything's rubbish about the football club. We've got no future. This, that, and the other. We've chucked the season away. If we go into the playoffs, we're going to get beat, and if we manage to get to Wembley, what's the point of turning up? Yeah, that's it, innit? That's it, and we've got to deal with that. So we've got to deal with that. But first things first, we need to arrest what's in front of us on Friday, and if we can do that, let's see where it takes us. And I should imagine that Liam would have been exactly the same.
I bet he's glad he dealt with it.
Yeah, getting back in the ring and all the adversity he suffered. So it's not all plain sailing. The game isn't all plain sailing. It's not all roses. It's not all sunshine. And sometimes you have to suffer. to make you stronger, and comebacks are on the agenda. Cheers, mate. Cheers.